Hi everyone, I'm going to do a live reading of Michael's Heart by Laurie Harrington, presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Prologue. Colby. I cannot remember a time when I didn't hear the music. Within each note lies a symphony, and upon hearing its beauty, something deep inside my soul is unleashed. Different pieces of music affect me in a variety of ways, but thankfully there are enough chord progressions to match my many moods. I have been labeled moody on many occasions. I will be the first to admit that I am moody. However, I chose years ago to redeem that term in a more positive light. I view my moodiness as a gift given to me when I was created. This quality is a new surprise each morning that I get to open. Around the tender age of 4, for the first time, I realized that my feelings, or more aptly, my mood, could be altered by music. Puff the Magic Dragon was my first favorite song, and I remember playing the record repeatedly. My beloved Black Mama, Little Bit, begged me to let my blue record player rest because it was exhausted. I still can remember sitting on my Winnie the Pooh bedspread, listening to that song and feeling sad as I heard the words about how little Johnny Paper stopped coming to play with the dragon. I still don't have the slightest clue what this song is really about, but I know that what my young heart not only heard, but felt. It was sad. I could feel the dragon's pain and wanted to cry every time I listened to that melancholy ballad. Even as a young child, a minor chord could melt me. Deep inside, something was stirring. This followed me into adulthood. When I was young, I had no idea what being in love was, let alone knowing what it felt like. I now relate the experience of being drawn to my soulmate to the haunting sensations that have enthralled me throughout my musical journey in life. I remember the first time I felt the deep yearning deep inside my inner being as I thought of him. It kept me excited because I always believed that God placed one man in this universe just for me. Sometimes the certainty of this sent chills rippling throughout my body. It is the same feeling I would experience when I would find myself lost in my music. As I began breathing music into my young soul, the musician inside me was born. This passion coursing through my veins would eventually find a voice through poems, songs, and a variety of other means. Fear began to taunt me as I grew older, however. Love and music always seemed intertwined. I always believed I would recognize him the moment we locked eyes. As crazy as it seemed, I always imagined he was always looking for me as well. When I failed to find him, I became aware of the deep connection between my music and the one whom my soul loved, the man I had not yet met. I have never been able to find adequate words to describe my heart's journey in discovering the answers I sought all my life, until now. The words have remained silently tucked away inside me, but the time has come when the silence can no longer remain. It's time my voice, my heart, and my very soul be heard. Listen closely with your heart as this story unfolds, and you too may hear the music. Chapter 1. Mom, you home? 17-year-old Lyric Geller called out as she walked into the front door. Hearing no answer, she turned the corner of the dining room and made her way into the kitchen. The fact that her mother was actually sitting at the kitchen table in the middle of the day was odd, but the way she was staring out the window as she held a piece of paper in her hand was even stranger. Lyric couldn't quite make out the expression on her mother's face, and that made Lyric nervous. She continued walking toward the table without her mom even noticing. Being an only child, Lyric always had her mother's undivided attention, whether she wanted it or not. Typically, her mother bombarded her with a plethora of questions upon entering the house. Something had her mother's interest for sure. Lyric cautiously approached the table and softly touched her sleeve. Mom, you okay? With a jolt, Colby Geller looked up at her daughter in bewilderment. Suddenly, she jumped up, grabbing her daughter by the shoulders. Colby shouted, I made it! I made it! Colby handed a paper to Lyric, and they both jumped up and down, emitting high-pitched squeals. "Mom, this is amazing! You did it! You made it!" They stopped, looked at each other, and then jumped up and down, squealing again. Letting go of her mom, Lyric read the letter aloud. "Mrs. Colby Geller, on behalf of the staff at Hightower Television Network, we would like to congratulate you on being selected as one of our top 3 contenders for the original score portion of our competition at HTN. The final contest will be held on May 20, 2018 at the Hightower Studio in Atlanta, Georgia. I have included the information and the material you will need to provide for the registration desk upon your arrival. You are to arrive promptly at 10 a.m. You will then be escorted to your personal green room to prepare the material you will be presenting. You will find the street address and a map enclosed. If for some reason you are unable to make this appointment, please call the number below as soon as possible. We commend you on your accomplishments thus far and look forward to meeting you. With warm wishes, William Barrett Hightower, Jr. Lyric flipped to the next page and read silently. It says you have to perform 2 musical compositions, and one of them has to have lyrics. You haven't by chance found words to the song you've been working on for how long is it now? Forever? She asked, giving her mom a questioning glance. Not even a word, Colby replied flatly. Suddenly, Colby grabbed her cell phone to call Ollie and decided on a text instead. Colby, are you home? Ollie, just walked in. Why? Colby, stay put. Be there in 5 minutes. Colby did a little happy dance, picked up her letter and squealed one last time. She stopped and looked at her daughter again. I cannot believe this. Can you? Yes, Mom, I can. You have worked so hard to get there, and I believe this is your time. I am so proud of you. Lyric walked over to her mom and hugged her. I love you, Mom. I love you too, honey. Tears threatened her eyes, but Colby remembered her text to Ollie, which switched her mood from sentimental to effervescent once again. Lyric, I have got to tell Ollie this in person. Want to ride over with me? I'm taking the top of Volkswagen. Colby said as she picked her keys. You go on, Mom. I have drama practice. Why don't you grab us some Chinese takeout and we'll celebrate when we get back? You're on, kid, she said as she gave her daughter a quick kiss, grabbed her purse, and left in a whirlwind. With the top down on her car and her music cranked up, Colby headed to Ollie's house across town. Her hometown of Dalewood, Mississippi, consisted of only 3 stoplights, and today they were all red as she approached each one. She didn't care. She just kept staring at her letter and thinking about how helpful $100,000 would be to the nonprofit she had been working on. If I can actually pull this off, she thought. She also was thrilled at the thought of having a new job writing music for Hightower Television Network, HTN. As she drove, she smiled, thinking about Lyric. Her name said it all. Colby had told Stone, her ex-husband, that she would consider no other name but Lyric. They had argued for a while about it, but Colby finally won him over. Music had always been her heart and soul's desire. She always dreamed of getting out of this backward little town to pursue her passion. When she unexpectedly became pregnant and married Stone Geller, everything changed. All her dreams seemed to dissolve before she ever even had a chance to grasp them. However, something strange happened the day her daughter was born. None of those things seemed to matter anymore. The unconditional love she had for this little girl superseded anything she had ever known. Lyric was a name that represented all the hopes and dreams she felt were lost forever, and even though that portion of her life seemed to fade, her love for it would live on in her daughter's name. As the light turned green, she moved forward with her eyes still halfway on the letter and her mind a million miles away. She never had a chance. The white SUV ran the red light and hit her from the side so hard it knocked her into oncoming traffic. In an instant, Colby's world went dark as if someone had switched off a light inside her. She was baffled by the darkness. Then suddenly, from the seeming nothingness, she heard a voice call out her name. Colby, it's okay, love. You're going to be okay. She could not not place the man's voice, but it calmed her in a strange way. Before she could say anything, he spoke again. "Open your eyes, Colby." She tried, but was somehow aware in her subconscious that if she opened her eyes, this man would disappear. As strange as it seemed, something about him made her feel safe. As if he sensed this, he brushed her cheek with a kiss, saying, "Don't worry, love. I'm always with you. Wake up now. Wake up, love." Suddenly Colby woke up to a fireman prying her out of her car. She could tell by the shocked look on his face that he was relieved yet surprised to see a live person. His voice was different. She wondered where the other man had gone, and she turned awkwardly to the other side only to find that there was no other side, only smashed metal. "Are you okay, ma'am?" the fireman said in a calm voice. I think so. Ouch! She winced as she tried to reach her head. "We'll have you out in a minute." Right on cue, 2 paramedics began lifting her from the car and onto a stretcher. The next thing she knew, she was in the back of an ambulance heading to the hospital, wondering what the man with the familiar voice was who had insisted that she wake up. Who was it? She had never heard the voice before, but in her heart, she knew somehow that she'd always known him. Chapter 2. At the hospital, they performed a battery of tests. After her CT scan, Colby was admitted for additional observation. The on-call ER doctor explained that a neurologist from another hospital would evaluate her in the next few days. Only moments after settling into her room, a parade of familiar faces trailed in. "Mom," Lyric said through tear-stained eyes as she carefully leaned over to kiss her forehead. "Hey, sweet baby, I'm okay, I really am." She squeezed her daughter's hand. Relief immediately settled upon Lyric's face upon hearing her mother's voice. The other people in the room, not so much. Colby's parents, Charles and Madeline Huntington, came toward her with distinct worried expressions on their faces. Again she repeated, "Really, I'm okay." "Hey, sweetheart," her dad said with a heartfelt smile, but not able to mask his concern. "You scared us half to death. Your car," he began, but his words trailed off as tears made his eyes glisten. He turned away, allowing her mom to take his place. "Oh, my poor dear, are you uncomfortable? How is your head? You took a nasty lick." "It is okay, Mom. I'm only here for observation. I don't feel great, but I really am fine. Stop worrying." Colby knew her words were falling on deaf ears because her mother worried better than anyone she had ever known. Madeline Huntington could not be more different from her daughter. She had been a school teacher for 30 years and began immediately occupying her time with volunteer work at the hospital when she retired. Madeline was a true Southern belle. She never had a strand of her short, dark brown hair out of place. Dinner was always at 5 o'clock sharp. She had a clean house 24/7, and she dressed very sensibly on a daily basis. Colby, on the other hand, had the heart of a hippie and the soul of a gypsy. Her free spirit and chestnut-brown shoulder-length curls always seemed to symbolize the way she lived. She was a dreamer. While her mom colored safely within the lines, Colby never even knew lines existed. Despite their differences, Colby loved her mom dearly, and her mother would try to change Colby even if she could. "We called Danny. When she realized you were all right, she said she would come by tomorrow." "Mom, I have a bump on my head. I'm fine," she said firmly. "Danny has her hands full doing payroll for the store, not to mention a soccer-crazed senior in high school that keeps her on the go. Tell her not to worry about me." Danielle was 4 years older than Colby and had made there for her through every stage in her life, always cheering her on. They had always been extremely close, but both of their lives were overwhelmingly busy lately, leaving little time for sisterly outings. Danny and her husband Sam Donovan had been high school sweethearts. Sam had worked in a grocery store all his life, and a few years after they married, they opened their very own store. It was a small, struggling business in the beginning and occupied most of their free time, but it had paid off extremely well. After growing out of 2 different locations, they'd finally built their dream store. Donovan's was now the only grocery store in town, and the business was booming. Not only were they busy in the store, but their only child, Max, was a senior in high school and was a phenomenal soccer player. The Donovan family was either at the store or traveling to matches, leaving little time for anything in between.